Hi, this is Lisa with Holland Designs Crochet. I've been asked to do a video demo of my reversible waffle stitch blanket, so I will do that for you today. I just wanted to show you actually though the actual blanket. So this is a design I created in 2013 when my youngest daughter was basically about a year old, and so this has been through many washes and it's been well loved, but it's still somewhat presentable, even though she doesn't use it obviously anymore. She's almost 12. But I just grabbed this from her room. She had it laying on a chair. This is another blanket that she had as a baby as well. This was done in a bamboo fiber, which I really loved. So I'll link to both of these patterns in the description box. But I'm going to just do a video demo for you today showing you how to do the rows of the reversible waffle blanket. And you can use a yarn and hook of choice, really. The sample was done with a DK weight yarn and an I hook. You might try a medium worsted weight with a K hook, something similar to that. So let's get into the video, then I'll show you how this design has worked. This is the actual printed pattern from 2013. I've just printed it off. Reversible waffle baby blanket. And it is a customizable blanket, so you can make it to any size that you'd like, and you can again use yarn and hook of choice. I'm also going to do a little swatch here for you using an I hook, and I'm just using a DK weight yarn, just an acrylic yarn. I don't have the label, so I don't really know what it was, but just any kind of acrylic yarn. You can use yarn of choice for this. So I will just read a little bit of the pattern to you, so if you're new to reading patterns, maybe you'll be able to start to learn from what I'm saying and what I'm demonstrating to you. So this one has some pattern notes. It says the chain 2 at the end of each row always counts as the first stitch of the next row. So in this case, when you do a chain 2 turn, that will count as a double crochet basically for the new row. And again, you customize this to any size. You're simply going to need to start with an odd number of chains for the desired width of your blanket, and then work in rows until it's the correct height. And then we do need to have an odd number of chains, which means that the stitch count on row 1 will be an even number of stitches. So that's just important so that the texture works out correctly. For the original, I had done chain 121, and I had 120 double crochets for my stitch count at the end of row 1. So I'm just going to do a small swatch here. So I've started with chain 13 for my sample here. So again, that's an odd number, 13 chains. And row 1, we begin with a double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook and in each chain across. So because we're starting in the 3rd chain from hook, that means the first 2 chains become a double crochet basically at the edge here. That's going to be our first stitch in the stitch count. And so I'll work my double crochet into the 3rd chain from hook, and then continue across this row. Because I started again with chain 13, that means I will have 12 double crochets for my stitch count on row 1 of my swatch. And now in some patterns, when working with double crochet, they will have you do a chain 3. I don't personally like a chain 3. I only like chain 2 when working with double crochets. I find that it is tall enough for the height of the row that I'm wanting, and also I find a chain 3 can create a bit of a gap or a hole, and I don't like that look. So for me, I do a chain 2. So I will just finish this row. So this is what your row will look like, row 1. Just if you're new to crochet or you're just wanting to do it perfectly, you're just going to want to make sure that you have the correct stitch count. You are working 1 double crochet per each chain, and that you have an even number of stitches on this row, again including that chain 2 at the far side here, which counts as your first stitch. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've got 12 stitches. So that's very important. Again, you must have an even number of stitches on row 1. So rookie mistakes or things that people can do not paying attention is either miss a chain and end up with a wrong stitch count. If you have an odd number of stitches, this pattern will not work out quite the same, won't look as nice, won't have the waffled effect. So those are things to pay attention to. So again, at the end of row 1, then we're just going to do a chain 2 and turn our work. Okay, I'll come back in a moment and show you how to begin row 2. Okay, as we're beginning row 2 now, you can see it says FPDC. That stands for front post double crochet, and I'll show you how that's worked, but it's also a stitch you can find demonstrated online, many videos online showing how to work basic stitches like front post double crochet. So you'll be doing that around the post of the next stitch, and then we have a repetition that's beginning. It's a 2-stitch repetition, and it's shown in the parentheses. So the repetition will be double crochet in next stitch, followed by a front post double crochet around the post of the next stitch. So that's going to be the repetition across the entire row. If you look at the rest of the instructions here, so it says do that across, and then we'll end with a chain 2 turn. So I will demonstrate that for you, and also keep in mind that we have an even number of stitches on each row, and the stitch count is being maintained on every row, so there's no increases or decreases happening. And the reason that this is written this way is because we have this chain 2, which already counts as a double crochet. So because our repetition is a 2-stitch repetition, the first one's already done for us. That's why we're doing the front post to start, and then the actual repetition starts with the double crochet and the front post. So let me show you that right now. So we had our chain 2. So we work a front post, which is from the front of our work around the post, and working a double crochet. So it's just a standard double crochet, just worked around that post, and that gives us that nice textured, ribbed, raised effect. The next stitch is simply a regular double crochet in the top of the next stitch. Again, the next one is a front post double crochet. So it just alternates across the entire row with a double crochet in the next stitch and a front post double crochet around the post of the next stitch. And because we have an even number of stitches, we know that at the end of this row, we're going to end the same way we began, the same way we've been working, basically with the repetition completed perfectly with a front post double crochet at the end. So I will show you here specifically. At the end, you're going to have this last double crochet here. And then remember, you had this chain 2 here at the side. That counts as a double crochet. We're going to work a front post double crochet around that chain 2, just like that. Again, we'll do a chain 2 and turn our work. That is the second row of the pattern. So that shows how the waffle texture is beginning to form. Okay, now as we continue with row 3 of the pattern, keep in mind that even though we had post stitches on row 2, we don't need to think about that. We're simply going to think of them as just being regular double crochet stitches. And the repetition for row 3 is exactly the same as it was row 2, 100% the same. So we had the chain 2 to start, so we don't have to work around this stitch at all. Simply again going to do a front post double crochet around the next stitch, then a double crochet in the top of the next stitch, and repeat that across. Again, front post. So just alternating between a regular double crochet and a front post double crochet. And it will take a few rows before the waffle texture begins to develop fully and you begin to see the effect of it. So you got to give it a few rows before you'll see the results. But it's a very easy to memorize design and very pretty. It's also a little bit different from a standard waffle stitch. A standard waffle stitch, I believe, uses front post and back post double crochets. I haven't worked one in a while, but it's also not a one row repeat, and it's also only textured on one side. It only has the waffle effect on one side, whereas because this one's a 1 row repeat, you have identical texture on both sides of the blanket and that waffle effect appearing on both sides. So that's what makes it a reversible waffle blanket. So you can see how those waffled sections are starting to show now. This pattern, because it is made to measure, you can use it to make a blanket of any dimensions or also a scarf. Be a lovely pattern for a scarf. So you see how that's starting to look. And again, reversible texture, same on both sides. So just pay attention to your stitch count. So I've still got 12 stitches. And you'll have this pattern perfect. I actually used something similar to this, I think, with one of my latest designs, which was a granny waffle blanket. So it's definitely something where you could make squares with this waffle texture and sew them together if you wanted to make more of like a multicolored blanket, or you wanted to just do smaller squares. Or actually it's a perfect pattern as well for maybe a dishcloth. So yeah, give this pattern a try, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope that this demonstration has helped you understand perhaps the written instructions more clearly and gives you some confidence as you're getting started with this textured reversible waffle blanket.